there, this is Victoria Ring. In this lesson, I'm going to show you a problem that exists quite frequently. It's the balancing of Schedule J with the means test for a Chapter 13 plan. Most people will give the client a form to fill out and ask them to give them these figures: electricity and fuel, water and sewer, telephone cost, home maintenance, food, clothing, and so forth. And then they'll just go ahead and list what the client has without any type of guidance from the client to the client. So hopefully I'm going to show you in this video how to educate your client so that these figures can be correct. What happens if these figures are not correct? Well, one of the main problems it can cause is the plan can be rejected by the court. It can cause the debtor, normally this is what happens, it causes the debtor to not be able to stay in the plan. So the first thing we need to do is, once the client has provided you with these figures, then you need to cross-reference them with the IRS guidelines. Here are 3 things to keep in mind when doing Schedule J. Schedule J should always provide an allowance for a budget lasting the length of the Chapter 13 plan, which is normally 3 to 5 years. In other words, you don't want on Schedule J, when you're calculating a Chapter 13 plan, to have the figures for just this month. So these figures can fluctuate depending on the season, depending on the time of the month, anytime during the year. So whenever you're calculating cost over a 3 to 5 year plan, it can be higher or lower than the current amount. Next, you should never match the maximum IRS allowance. IRS guidelines should only be used as a guideline so that you can spot possible errors. I knew an attorney in California one time that would just take the maximum allowances and put them on all of his Schedule J's. Of course, this is going to throw a flag up to the court. It's going to cause objections because it's not an accurate reflection. Every single petition is unique. And finally, the Schedule J should assist in documenting allowances that are over the IRS guidelines, so that receipts can be obtained for verification. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. To get the IRS guidelines for your area and for your clients, you can go on Google and just type in IRS bankruptcy allowances. Or if you're using Best Case software, you can just double click here on the Form 22C, and you'll have a line of tabs up here. Now, these tabs do not show up in a Chapter 7. You're only going to have 3 tabs. In a Chapter 13, you're going to have all of these. So you can just click on Living, the Living tab, and do a Show Table, and it's going to show you the IRS allowances, in this case 1 person. If you had entered 5 people in the petition, then it would be showing you the allowances for 5. And it'll even show you that food and apparel added together cannot equal more than a certain figure. You can click on Health, Show Table. It's going to show you the health allowances that are available for under 65 and over 65. Housing allowances. Again, utilities and maintenance should not at more than, this particular case, 1 person's filing, $457, and the mortgage and rental. And attorneys, pay attention to these figures. This one, for instance, if the client is paying a rent or mortgage that is more than $1,407, then you will need to make an adjustment on the means test. And that adjustment is going to be done here on line 26. the car allowance there. Even if a client has no car, they still are allowed an allowance for public transportation. So you would go through here and get your allowances if this is the one way you want to use to find them, and write them down. And I've done this right here. I've went through and listed all of the amounts that I needed. Now I can go over to Schedule J and cross-reference with these and see where potential problems could be. One of the first problems that I see in this particular Schedule J is that the electric and the telephone and the utilities are way under the IRS guidelines. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm going to just throw some figures in here, because that would be fraudulent. Instead, you're going to call your client and get accurate figures. You will find that their calculations of these often is a recent bill that may be under, over, whatever. So you'll need to check those. Another thing that I saw is that the clothing expense and the food, where the food was a little over, then the medical expenses, they had $400 originally, and I put 60 in there so I could get an idea, but that is way over for medical. So you need to find out from the client. They may actually be paying $400 a month, and if they are, then you'll need to get receipts so that the attorney can take those to 341 and argue the case that they do need $400, which is over the IRS guidelines of 60. Okay? That is just a for instance. Your transportation. I noticed that the IRS guidelines on transportation were, what was it, 301, and they've got $50. So again, you don't want to call the client and say, the IRS will give you $300, you only gave us $50. They're going to naturally say $300. So you want to find out, say, well, this does not look like it's an accurate reflection. What do you spend in gas? And most of the time on a case like this, I have found that debtors will say, oh, I thought you meant per week, or whatever. So you want to make sure, this is a way of checking these things and making sure that they are correct. And I happen to notice that on here, they do not even have their auto insurance. So again, you want to go over Schedule J very carefully. And then once you do, and you talk with your client and review it with them, you're going to have an excess here. Now this excess, $1743.78 in this particular case, is the DMI, which is disposable monthly income. You'll want to look at that and go back to your means test and see if you are within the range of and be accurate. So this is 1743. Let's go to the means test, and the means test disposable is 1460. That's probably pretty much within the range. Of course, you don't want a variance of more than 75%, of less than 75%, because something's wrong. And once you balance out your means test disposable income with your Schedule J disposable income, then you can move forward with the proposal of the Chapter 13 plan. And that's for another video. This video has been designed by my bankruptcy school to show you the level of detail that we do provide to our students. We have hundreds of hours of these videos available. Simply go to mybankruptcyschool.com, come to the front page, and you can get all the information that you want. When you do decide to enroll, you simply click on Enroll. Then you can select from various membership levels, including a 5-day trial for only $49. So I hope you visit my bankruptcy school, and I hope this lesson helps you with your Chapter 13 plans.